time to cough ever. Ooh, the microphone is, in fact, doing its thing again. Is that better? That's better.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. So, we've done a little bit of experimenting with settings and animations and things of that nature in the hopes of making the stream just a little more stable today. So, fingers crossed, things up. I need wood. I need to, like...
Your entire desk.
Things are currently working. So, fingers crossed that today will be a slightly more stable environment.
Can we just take a moment to remark on how weirdly cute it is that our internet connection is a lot like a person. When you don't overload it, it becomes less stable. Or more stable.
It's been a busy week, John. Don't fall asleep on stream.
One of my favorite people on TikTok at the moment is Ashley Birch, who is a very, very good actress. She's best known, I think, through Critical Role for a lot of people, but I know her as basically the physical acting component of Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. Mm-hmm. And her TikTok account is hilarious, not just because she has the best dog in the world, but because she's very good about advice about stress and pressure, and has the master of the 20-second punchline. Because there's one which is just labelled codependency. And it's her partner sitting there kind of writing a list, and she's leaning on his shoulder. And he just goes, okay, I'm just going to pop out to the store. And she looks at him. And across 5 seconds goes, nah! And then it just cuts. She's really good.
Yes, Pezzy, we did miss you.
Pezzy, we are so grateful.
We miss everybody.
We miss everyone.
I really hope this is doing stable, because it sure looks to be stable, but everybody's talking to themselves, so I'm like slightly paranoid that nobody's seeing us and we're just talking into the
Scott
void
said hi, boss.
Good.
Which
We're here. We're live.
The boss gestalt.
The boss gestalt. Kate says hi. What? What was that?
I'm being a boss gestalt.
Why? What?
Because
what are we
you
doing?
have to get closer, because then you're proper gestalt.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
You know you're there. I see the kitty pocket. Yes, indeed. The pocket of the kitty. We're just vibing while you vamp. Vibing while we vamp. That totally sounds like a thing.
And if that is not in the remake of Snow White and the Seven,
kitty.
We're really sorry, Peter Dinklage. Come back. I will want to know why.
You leave that man alone. That is one of the hottest men alive.
Good Lord. Good
He's
actual
on my
Lord.
list. He's just, whew, and he's really good. Be nice to him. Okay.
He gets all of the treats.
That got weird.
Only if you wanted it to.
So we do 3 things on this stream.
Oh, how dare you.
I have to cut you off at least once. Oh no, Kitty in a Cone. No, I have not seen Cyrano Neff. What is time? And we're not going to cinemas. The UK is still pretty much a hot mess when it comes to cases, so very minimal social public contact for us at the moment. I cannot wait, because Cyrano's one of my favorite plays from one of my favorite time periods, and
it's a musical version of it as well.
I don't care. It's Peter Dinklage's Cyrano. That's what I need. Okay.
The fuck is that voice?
Have you seen Call Me Chris on TikTok with Auntie? Yeah, well, her mother has this very Jewish accent.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. That's her mother.
Okay.
You were saying.
We do 3 things on this show.
Okay, you may go now.
All right, bye.
No, don't come. Don't leave. You have a whole story to read. We have a lot to go through this evening. So how we feeling, St. Kilda folks?
Yeah, everyone good?
Everyone good? So that was episode 6. And I'm teeing this up because Ducky will help remind everybody, but episode 10, which is the end of season 1, will air on the 1st of March, I think it is, on a Tuesday. And the following Wednesday, the 2nd of March, is going to be a no St. Kilda zone, because we need to not let there be any spoilers, to let people be in their emotions, let people, catch up, breathe, relax, fume, do what they need to do. And then the following week, we will leave space for all things Kilda. Wendy, that's how long you have until we have to get Junkus the Kilda costume. So, that's where we're at.
I just want to read out. I mean, we all have a new favourite character as played by Marguerite, but I'm still skimming about the plot. I am so proud of you.
I had fun. I'm starting to think Lockie may have just joined a cult.
How dare.
Well, I mean, results are inconclusive. We have several episodes to figure it out, we'll see.
There was a very, very sweet compliment on the listener party stream where someone said, oh, Alistair's really good this week. The crack in his voice. And like, no, that wasn't acting. And Naomi is actually that good.
Yeah, so Toast has the best cast photo ever. It is just the absolute best thing in the world. More cat cast photos, thank you.
And it's like those 90s sitcoms where a character would be doing something, like always mending a fence or pouring some coffee, and then they just turn and go. It's that, but in cat.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, exactly. So yes, St. Kilda, wonderful. Horrible, terrible, wonderful, horrible.
Everything's fine from here on out.
Okay, so one of my favorite parts about Monday nights at 10 p.m. for those of us who are supporters of the podcast, they do the early release of the episode as a live thing on YouTube, so we can all hang out and chat and react together. And the St. Kilda crew are masters of the thematic Spotify playlist ahead of time on the stream. And it was all country western music last time. I came into the stream and they was playing dueling banjos and I just about pitched a fit. It was hilarious.
She can turn this on just like that. It's
yes.
Great.
Okay, I played Deadlands for Deca. Weird. Love it. Love it.
Thank you,
I played
Wendy.
Deadlands for 10 years. Learning how to drop a G is part of being in the West. Ain't nothing got a G on the end of it. Lockie in the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad time.
No, it's all fine now.
No, I'm sure everything will be just fine from here on out. Exactly. So 3 things.
We do 3 things on this show.
There you go.
For those of you who are new here, and indeed those
I don't
of
think
you
there's
who
anybody
are...
here who's new.
No, I just,
you are well accustomed to our shenanigree by now.
Not locked in with you, locked in with us. Shenanigree.
Nonsense.
Shenanigree, it's that patina of comedy that accretes on something over time.
What color is it?
It's always green.
Okay. All right. You may proceed.
Or maybe, just maybe, faded clown nose.
No. Just come back. Where were we? 3 things.
3 things. The first one is designed to give you an opportunity to get comfortable, get situated, get hydrated, feed your pets, take any meds you might need, ensure that your partner is distracted with a laser pointer on the Roomba, whatever works.
You know, not that that's what this has been. But,
right.
You know, there's like an official part of it where we try to pick content and shit. Doesn't always work.
It's an opening monologue. This week, I believe it is once again written by the amazing house band, Mr. Nate Crowley.
We will be having another video game review by the amazing Mr. Nate Crowley for our opening monologue.
And then our story this week is the first of a 2-parter. It is called, spectacularly, Was It an Illusion? A Parson'S Story by Amelia B Edwards. We continue to excavate, some would say, exhume, public domain horror, specifically, literally anybody who is an old-ass dead white dude. And Amelia B Edwards is not an old-ass dead white dude. And it's a good story. We'll conclude it next week. It's a good time.
Peter Lucas fans, you are going to get some little morsels this
attention.
evening. It will be lovely. And then we have a lovely St. Kilda shenanigan. You're all welcome. What else is going on right now that we should talk about?
Jesus God.
Okay, on Friday, they give me the internet fast juice. They give me the internet fast juice or they give me a roommate. One of the two. Fingers crossed for the fast juice, honestly. I would very much like the internet fast juice. So
very much like the internet fast juice. We have commenced Operation Holiday.
We have?
One Italy, please.
Yes, we are attempting to plan a holiday, like a real one, where we don't go to a convention or work or anything. Who knows? I think it's a lie. I think it's a clever advertising ploy.
Literally last week, we walked into a travel agent and went, hello, we would like one Italy, please.
We would like this much Italy, please. So yes, we are planning a trip for someone's birthday.
I'm me. Hello, I'm someone.
Hello, I'm someone. Yes. We've been doing that. Lots of bits and pieces and stuff and things and planning. You know, January's over and everybody's like, oh crap, where were we? And there's a lot of that going on kind of globally.
Which for people who've been running flat out since January 1st is a little bit like,
yeah, like I'm ready for the baton pass now. Are you gonna come Okay, I'll just keep going, shall I? Yes.
Further to that, there are some pretty solid upsides to everything right now. There's a really lovely... We've discovered that in what we can only assume is a desperate attempt for this shit heap town to stop us moving. Not only is there an art cinema directly across the road with a good coffee shop in the bottom, there's a better coffee shop operating out of a truck right outside it.
Next to the taco truck around the corner from the Thai place that we tried for the first time for lunch. And I have not had a Masaman curry in like 3 years, and it was freaking brilliant.
And it was all really, really, really good.
So it's been a very busy day, but a very good day.
So that's excellent.
Ooh.
I also, those long-term viewers will know that one of the ways in which I deal with stress and unwinding is by going to the movies. Guess how often that's happening right now? But I'm doing all right. There are a couple of things.
You take Norman up a hill when you get stressed out.
Yeah, when I'm playing Death Stranding a lot at the moment, so Norman and Regis and his happy little carry boy.
You have an official little carry boy now.
I have a large carry boy. I have a level 3 carry boy now.
What is a level 3 carry boy?
It's like a really big carry boy.
Okay. When does it grow up to become a carry man or whatever?
I think that's when I get the sports car.
Do you get a sports car?
I get a sports car. Also, brilliantly.
What kind of sports car?
It's like a Rolls Royce looking one.
Really?
Yeah, it's really long.
No.
However,
it's not a Mustang. You can miss me. Thanks.
However, I am also reliably informed that because I'm playing this on PS5, I get the stupidest idea in modern video game history. I get the cargo gun.
Oh, yes. Isn't this the little, here I steal your thing?
No, it's so much dumber than that.
Okay.
Basically, you get to a point, because you're operating out of all these various supply centers across post-pseudo-collapse America. You get to a point where you get the blueprints for a cargo cannon, which is literally, we need this delivered here. Great. You take it, you put it on your backpack, you walk outside to the roof, to the gun, load the cargo into the gun, and shoot it 3 miles to the target.
No.
Yes.
What are you delivering?
Well, look at it this way. Today I dropped off some books, 20 cases of sleeping pills, and a pacemaker.
Please don't put a pacemaker in that. It ain't gonna work when you get it on the other side.
So that's going well.
I tried working out a happy little carry boy costume for Chungus, but it's way beyond my crochet. Yeah, pipe cleaners would probably
It's
be
all
involved.
good, dude.
Cardboard.
Don't worry about it. Also, I'm continuing to make my way through the Book of Boba Fett and remain consistently pleasantly surprised by the fact that fundamentally it's a show about a retired older gentleman who would really quite like to just pet his many horrifying animals and maybe start a union.
Here is the chunky boy. Well, we're going to go for a nice little walk through the countryside this afternoon, so we thought we'd bundle up.
In the fog.
And since it's going to be very foggy, we thought we'd bring some friends with us. So, yes, we have our lovely little birdies who are going to come with us. And Chungus is doing quite well. Very, very well. Made focaccia again last week.
And it was delicious focaccia.
It was in fact delicious. Shall we do the opening monologue?
Yes.
Alrighty. You want to start?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I am surprisingly hyped for Ubisoft's Avatar Horizon Zero Cat People game.
Hold on a second. I gotta check if we have content warnings. We do. Swearing. Okay.
Swearing.
Content warning for swearing.
Oddly enough.
Alright, moving on.
I thought that the 2009 film Avatar of Big Blue Cat People fame was a bit underwhelming. Speaking as a massive speculative exobiology nerd, which is to say I think theoretical aliens are well cool, I found it baffling that with a budget of 237 million big ones and a brief of create a convincing alien planet, they couldn't just let their brains rip a little bit harder. The beasts were all very spectacular in that, but every design basically boiled down to a normal animal, but it's bigger and more brightly coloured, plus we've stuck a bit from another animal on it.
So the Star Trek principle.
Yeah,
we just
basically.
put something on your forehead, right?
Same goes for the floating mountains and, if we're honest, the entire story. Unsurprisingly then, when Avatar Frontiers of Pandora was announced at Ubisoft Forward last night, I shrugged. Weird flex, etc., but in the course of watching the trailer, it changed my mind. Told us nothing about what the actual game would be like, but it made me realise there's at least a lot more potential here than I might have thought. Here's why.
Now, I don't know whether it's because games have a long history of being considered as lesser media to films, or because of their more overall entertainment value comes from the thrill of player agency. But when it comes to imagination, I've always held games to a lower standard than movies. A C-tier monster becomes a solid B+ when it's chasing you virtually, after all, and a generic script feels less annoying when you can wander off and loot vegetables.
Loot vegetables like a simpleton.
Loot vegetables like a simpleton. Hey, get out of my living room, Nate. Hey, Wendy, is that Nightshade? On that basis, I find myself weirdly more excited about Pandora as a setting for a game than I feel about it as a setting for next year's actual Avatar sequel. Wait a minute, isn't Avatar the planet where everything has a tail and can therefore talk to, touch, bond?
As Compost Witch has
fill
just
in
said,
the blank.
Excited to USB interface with a horse. Also, I actually have some context for why the movie is like this, which we'll share in a few paragraphs' time. Most importantly, though, Ubisoft's Avatar trailer showed off loads of cool beasts. There was some of the old bunch from 2009, of course. Good old horse with an anteater's face, the floating IKEA jellyfish things, and the classic pterodactyl with a massive chin. But there were new creatures too, and I don't know if they've been lifted from concept art from the new movie, currently due at the end of 2022, but they all felt a solid notch up from James Cameron's 2009 Menagerie.
There was a sort of
Elasmatherium.
/
Dimetrodon.
Dinosaur kid lad who did a really majestic fart on a hill. The old space dogs seem to have been replaced by cool flange-headed beaky lads, which look a touch more alien. There was a fun six-legged gecko lad with an underbite. And most intriguingly, there was a mysterious, hill-sized geezer having a nap under a tent, who looked a bit like a triceratops with ram horns and felt like they might have been an NPC. All good stuff, I reckon.
It was during the majestic fart sequence, in fact, that I realised the more precise reason I was getting such an unexpected tingle of anticipation for the game.
Majestic fart sequence.
Particularly at that point, the trailer's direction, music, and general vibe was hugely evocative of Guerrilla Games' Horizon Zero Dawn, which is one of my favourite games ever. It is fucking great.
I want to shoot a dinosaur with the bow and arrow, and I want to do it now!
To me, Horizon was a great game which actually exceeded the standards of imagination I'd usually expect from a sci-fi film.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 sidebars after this.
Okay, go ahead. Do the Horizon. No. Now I think about it. This does, of course, raise the question of to what extent HZD lifted its tone from Avatar in the first place. But since that's not convenient to the point I'm trying to reach here, I'll just leave that on the ground like a load of wet crisps.
The point is, if I get an Ubisofted version of Horizon Zero Dawn with loads of alien wildlife to hunt, pet, ride about on, plus some nasty cigar-chomping space marines to burst into shreds, I'll be a happy bunny, even if I have to play as a Pokemon that fucks.
You had to end it that way, Nate. All right. First things first, Avatar context.
Okay. This is that rarest of beasts, or I suspect more depressingly, that far more common of beasts. This is a movie with a colossal budget and a colossal script, and the two didn't quite meet. This got revised too many times.
Pokemon that
fucks.
Right.
One of the earlier drafts, which is available online if you look in the right places, establishes several things. Firstly, it turns the Na'vi. See, I've seen this movie once, and I remember what they were called. It turns the Na'vi into something other than American Indian tropes. Secondly, it gives Sam far more to actually do. And thirdly, and most interestingly, it establishes that the ecology of Pandora hates humans. From the moment they arrive, literally the moment the first settlement is set up, they are literally having to kill swarms of animals which are constantly trying to get in. And it's a very, very early indicator that the planet is alive. There's actually an entire character that was cut who is a guide working with the mining corporation who's basically watching the Marines do this, repel the 1,000th wave of animals, and is literally going, the planet doesn't want you here.
Text? Not even subtext, folks. Are we catching that? Okay. We could talk about Zero Dawn for like an entire hour. That was an amazing game on like a gazillion, billion, trillion different levels. But what is the thing you wanted to talk about?
The two things I really wanted to talk about with that were, firstly, it is one of the first examples I've seen of a game that moved like a novel.
Very much so, yes.
There are about 3 points in that game where a lesser game would end. They're all act breaks.
Yeah, exactly. It has a narrative tempo that's just freaking breakneck.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a rushed game because it does such a really good job of signposting. That is where the plot is. And you see all this other interesting stuff and couch cushions? You can go do that now. And we did all of that.
I have recently, because I'm worth it, treated myself to an official Horizon Zero Dawn notebook.
Yeah. It's from the same company who did the Witcher one that I have, which came with like a medallion and like a couple of pencils and a bunch of other really cool stuff. This one comes with
pencil, shiny glass beads,
and there's like a paper clip that's the shape of her uplink thing, which I'm really looking forward to.
It is a phenomenal game, and it's that thing that a lot of Ubisoft games especially try and do, where it's a big sprawling narrative that also has 75 other things for you to do in and around it, and it all works. And the thing I really love about it, possibly more than anything else, is it's a game that just expands and expands and expands and expands and expands and expands and expands. And then the final scene is just your character, alone with their emotions. And it is so hard and so earned. And if there was an ounce of fucking justice, there would have been a video game, Hugo, in time for it to walk that.
Forbidden
West is this year,
where there's not being a video game, Hugo.
But it's eligible for next year.
So maybe next year. Come on, Tringo. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and you're not getting a game set in the Avatar: The Last Airbender universe. You're getting 3 more shows and a movie.
Yeah.
There is the live-action adaptation of the Book of Aang with Appa from Kim's Convenience as Uncle Iroh, which is the best piece of casting in the world.
Freaking heart exploded when I heard that. I'm like, yes, you may be Uncle Iroh. This is appropriate.
Compost, which you're absolutely right. When I say no video game, I mean no video game.
Yeah.
There is a TTRPG on the way. There's also a 2-book series they're working on now about Avatar Kyoshi. And there are at least 2 other things.
Kyoshi is the
awesome Kabuki lady.
Who's voiced by Jennifer Hale.
Yes.
Femshep.
Yep.
They're the Earth... She's an Earth... I can't remember. It's been a long time. I guess I'll have to watch it all again.
Because she wears a lot of green. And Toph wears a lot of green.
Yeah, exactly. Unapologetic murder bitch. Voiced by Jennifer Hale.
Yep.
Hook it to my veins. Yes, please.
But no, basically where Star Trek is right now, my understanding is the plan is for Avatar to be out about 3 or 4 years from now. Where you have constant rolling streams of stuff.
Did y'all see
the
Strange New Worlds poster with the beautiful red orange background and like the multiple moons, and there's the Enterprise, and there's a desert scrub, and there's Pike on a horse
in a cowboy hat.
OMG.
Need a moment.
I'm very excited for the show.
Yes,
I'm very, 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 very excited for this show. Void Merch has got a couple of new Trek designs up, including, if you know, you know, one that says GNDN. And I'm like, oh, Jordan, you understand my brain.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, the set of the original Enterprise, the original television show, had lots of bulkheads and big pipes on the walls that were labeled in the font of the ship GNDN. And it stands for Goes Nowhere, Does Nothing. And it was just them trying to add more ambience to the backgrounds as the show progressed. I freaking loved them.
The other brilliant thing I found out recently, and I think this is the first time he's talked about it, technical designer Mike Akuda for Next Gen has talked about how one of the last things he would do before they filmed every time was add sticky tape to the black paneling on the sets to define panels and access hatches.
And I remember LeVar Burton talking about how there were just black pieces of glass. So we all started making up our own keystroke combinations that were like characteristic to us, which is what led the writers to go, oh, haptic responsive design. So it's going to be different for everybody. So we don't have to make the actors memorize any sort of like button pushes or anything. The ship is going to adapt its interfaces to them however they play it.
Which then becomes an overt part of Disco in the 3rd season when it gets individually personalized interface, depending on who's using what.
Exactly. Okay, we can talk about Star Trek for a whole nother,
One last thing. The Section 31 Murder Grandma show is still definitely coming.
Oh, God, yes.
May start filming this year. And so is Starfleet Academy.
They're officially doing Starfleet Academy.
As a show.
When? When is it set?
Active development now. No word on when it's set. There are already people going, so Principal O'Brien is going to be a thing, right?
Oh my god. Can you imagine being O'Brien, teaching at the College of Engineering?
No. Principal of the Academy.
Oh god.
It has now been canonically established Miles O'Brien is the most influential Starfleet officer of all time. Lower Decks has said he's one of the pillars of Starfleet. I love the idea of this guy who was literally the doorman.
I got you, Compost. I'm going to put a link to, our Void merch in the chat, but you'll be able to find it from there.
Who was literally the doorman on the Enterprise, was the guy who went, all right, off you go. All right, back you come. And who held together a Cardassian space station for 7 years with Irish bloody-mindedness, going, oh, it's 3,000 kids.
Yeah.
Are you bleeding? No, don't fuck off.
Oh, we can have whole conversations about O'Brien and about his daughter and about her middle name and how she was born and how I love it so very, very much.
One last thing before we move on.
Okay, you said that 3 last things ago. This is why I split the story in half, because I knew we were going to do this.
A little while ago, Patrick Stewart posted a photo from his birthday party. It was captioned, "Don't hire these caterers. These guys suck." And it is Michael Dorn, Scott Bakula, and Brent Spiner just fucking up his kitchen.
Yeah, seriously, Wendy. I think, one last thing might have to go on the emote list. Okay, that was one thing. That was the monologue. Here we are, half an hour in. How's everybody doing?
Let's do it.
All right, so set us the scene for something for the spooky spookies that we are going to do.
Okay, this is another one of those really interesting stories from
public domain times.
From the Forgotten Times. And its presence and the fact that it has to be unearthed speaks very strongly, beating the drum a little bit here, but it's accurate to the fundamentally patriarchal nature of genre fiction, basically from the jump off. Women, non-binary, LGBTQI folks were always doing this, and they were always doing this to the level...
Good night, Forbats. Have a good evening.
Good night, Forbats. They were always doing this at a level where it was being published. It just wasn't being talked about.
And the editorial discretion / suppression / patriarchy experienced was, just fundamental and rampant and everywhere, which is why we're focusing on, when we're doing public domain stories, there's a lot of really popular ones that are all written by men. And that's okay. They're popular.
Yeah.
They get talked about a lot, so we're trying not to do that. We're trying to find other stories.
And if you could just give me a moment whilst I scramble up onto the hill that I so often die on. The most important thing I find about horror, the thing which brings me back to it again and again and again, is it is the most hopeful genre that no one notices is the most hopeful. At every level. If it's a story where everyone dies, you didn't. If it's a story where someone survived, they've learned. If it's a story where the evil is exorcised, then people have been tested to extremis and not been found wanting. And that hope, that fundamental...
Okay, you all have to take waters. Have a sip.
That fundamental bloody-toothed, exhausted, ripped wedding dress,
By Corbin.
Samara Weaving at the end of Ready or Not, which is such a fucking good movie, energy is what very much carries through these stories for me. This isn't stuff that's unearthed. This isn't stuff which is a lost treasure or a lost, or a buried gem. This is horror. It's as good or better as the stuff that you know. That quote about Gilman from last week springs to mind. And someone said this has exactly the same traits and exactly the same approach as Poe. It's just we still read him.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to do that thing again where I'm going to get out of the way and he's going to square himself up to stare you down all spooky-like where I don't have to watch. And
where I can't get you.
Yeah, and we're going to watch him read a spooky story. So
it's me. I'm him.
It's me. I'm him. Yes, exactly. All right, you can move that chair on out of the way. Its usefulness is at an end for the evening.
We have the most uncomfortable chair in the world. It is literally made slightly of concrete.
It is not made of
It is. Check the sleeves. There was that time where I passed out and I broke one, and there's concrete inside it.
What?
That's why there's a mark on the wall. I told you about it. This was years ago. Keep up, Shepard. Okay, so I used to have this ability where, I told you about this. I swear I told you about it. You know that thing I do sometimes. I used to have this thing where I could stand up and stretch, and if I stretched it a certain way, I would cut off the circulation of blood to my brain.
That's not wise.
No, and it doesn't happen anymore, which is nice. But it did happen once while we were here, and I sat down quite hard at a bad angle on one of those chairs, and that's why we have one of them. And I did tell you at the time.
I'm sure it left an impression at the time.
Left an impression on the wall, that's for damn sure. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So anyway.
So, set us the scene.
Like I say, we have this fantastic story by...
Beastrogen, you're actually just on time. We are starting...
Beastrogen, this is perfect timing.
Hang on, I will push the button.
Hello, Kiwi.
Find the button.
It's technically an ability, Wendy. I mean, you know, I would be at the bottom of the class in the X-Men Academy, but...
Here we go. There's the story. And we have some content warnings, so why don't you read those?
So, the headline content warnings for Was It an Illusion? A Parson's Story are horror themes, death and dying, mental health and trauma, socio-political themes, violence, accents. And you can also find a detailed list of all tonight's content warnings at the URL in the notes. And massive thanks as ever to Duck Pond for being amazing.
Things my body could do, I'd rather it couldn't. Yes, what?
Harsh. Fair. Oh, cool.
Bite Size Audio Classics does a reading of it on YouTube. Oh, nice, great.
All right.
Let's find a link to that and put it in the show notes.
So, Was It an Illusion? A Parson's Story by Amelia B Edwards. Part 1 of 2. The facts which I am about to relate happened to myself some 16 or 18 years ago, at which time I served Her Majesty as an inspector of schools. Now, the provincial inspector is perpetually on the move, and I was still young enough to enjoy a life of constant travelling. There are indeed many less agreeable ways in which an unbeneficed parson may contrive to scorn delights and live laborious days. In remote places where strangers are scarce, his annual visit is an important event, and though, at the close of a long day's work, he would sometimes prefer the quiet of a country inn, he generally finds himself the destined guest of the rector or the squire. It rests with himself to turn these opportunities to account. If he makes himself pleasant, he forms agreeable friendships and sees English home life under one of its most attractive aspects, and sometimes, even in these days of universal commonplaceness, he may have the luck to meet with an adventure. My first appointment was to a West of England district largely peopled with my personal friends and connections. It was therefore much to my annoyance that I found myself, after a couple of years of really rather pleasant work, transferred to what a policeman would call the new beat, up in the north. Unfortunately for me, my new beat, a rambling, thinly populated area of something under 1,800 square miles, was 3 times as large as the old one, and more than proportionately unmanageable. Intersected at right angles by 2 ranges of barren hills, and cut off to a large extent from the main lines of railway, it united about every inconvenience that a district could possess. The villages lay wide apart, often separated by long tracts of moorland, and in place of the well-warmed railway compartment and the frequent manor house, I now spent half my time in hired vehicles and lonely country inns. Tell me you hate it, without telling me you hate the north. It's fine, no one noticed.
Okay.
I had been in possession of this district from some 3 months or so, and winter was near at hand when I paid my first visit of inspection to Pitt End, an outlying hamlet in the most northerly corner of my county, just 22 miles from the nearest station. Having slept overnight at a place called Drumley, and inspected Drumley schools in the morning, I started for Pit End. With 14 miles of railway and 22 of hilly crossroads between myself and my journey's end. I made, of course, all the inquiries I could think of before leaving, but neither the Drumley schoolmaster nor the landlord of the Drumley Feathers knew much more of Pit End than its name. My predecessor, it seemed, had been in the habit of taking Pit End from the other side.
Phrasing.
The roads, though longer, being less hilly that way. That the place boasted some kind of inn was certain, but it was an inn unknown to fame and to mine host of the Feathers. Be it good or bad, however, I should have to put up at it. So, upon this scant information, I started. My 14 miles of railway journey soon ended at a place called Bramsford Road, whence an omnibus conveyed passengers to a dull little town called Bramsford Market. Is he a prick? I'm kind of thinking he's a prick. Here...
Content warning, northern hatred.
Content warning, fuck off. Here I found a horse and trap to carry me on to my destination. The horse being a raw-boned grey with a profile like a camel, and the trap, it's in air quotes, a rickety high gig which had probably done commercial travelling in the days of its youth. From Branford Market, the way lay over a succession of long hills, rising to a barren, high-level plateau. It was a dull, raw afternoon of mid-November, growing duller and more raw as the day waned and the east wind blew keener. "How much further now, driver?" I asked as we alighted at the foot of a longer and stiffer hill than we had yet passed over. He turned a straw in his mouth and grunted something about fewer than 5 mile by the road. And then I learned that by turning off at a point which he described as Dol Tullus and taking a certain footpath across the fields, this distance might be considerably shortened. I decided, therefore, to walk the rest of the way, and, setting off at a good pace, I soon left driver and trap behind. At the top of a hill I lost sight of them, and coming presently to a little roadside ruin, which I at once recognised as the old toll house, I found the footpath without difficulty. A shortcut on which I can escape from the northern. Quickly, quickly now! It led me across a barren slope divided by stony fences, with, here and there, a group of shattered sheds, a tall chimney, and a blackened cinder mound, marking the site of a deserted mine. A light fog, meanwhile, was creeping up from the east, and the dusk was gathering very fast. Now, to lose one's way in such a place and at such an hour would be disagreeable enough, and the footpath, a trodden track already half obliterated, would be indistinguishable in the course of another 10 minutes. Looking anxiously ahead, therefore, in the hope of seeing some sign of habitation, I hastened on, scaling one stone stile after another, till I all at once found myself skirting a line of park palings. Following these, with bare boughs branching out overhead and dead leaves rustling underfoot, I came presently to a point where the path divided, here continuing to skirt the enclosure, and striking off yonder across a space of open meadow. Fog. Which should I take? By following the fence, I should be sure to arrive at a lodge where I could inquire my way to Pit End, but then the park might be of any extent, and I might have a long distance to go before I came to the nearest lodge. Again, the meadow path, instead of leading to Pit End, might take me in a totally opposite direction, but there was no time to be lost in hesitation, so I chose the meadow, the further end of which was lost to sight in a fleecy bank of fog. Up to this moment, I had not met a living soul of whom to ask my way. It was therefore with no little sense of relief that I saw a man emerging from the fog and coming along the path. As we neared each other, I, advancing rapidly, he slowly, I observed that he dragged the left foot, limping as he walked. It was, however, so dark and so misty that not till we were within half a dozen yards of each other could I see that he wore a dark suit and an Anglican felt hat, and looked something like a dissenting minister. As soon as we were within speaking distance, I addressed him. "Can you tell me," I said, "if I am right for Pit End, and how far I have to go?" He came on, looking straight before him, taking no notice of my question, apparently not hearing it. "I beg your pardon," I said, raising my voice, "but will this path take me to Pit End? And if so—" He had passed on without pausing, without looking at me. I could almost have believed without seeing me. I stopped, with the words on my lips, then turned to look after, perhaps to follow him, and instead of following, I stood, bewildered. What had become of him? And what lad was that going up the path by which I had just come, that tall lad, half running, half walking, with a fishing rod over his shoulder? I could have taken my oath that I had neither met him nor passed him, so where then had he come from, and where was the man to whom I had spoken not 3 seconds ago, and who, at his limping pace, could not have made more than a couple of yards in the time? My stupefaction was such that I stood quite still, looking after the lad with the fishing rod till he disappeared in the gloom under the park palings. Was I dreaming? Darkness, meanwhile, had closed in apace, and dreaming or not dreaming, I must push on or find myself benighted. So I hurried forward, turning my back on the last gleam of daylight and plunging deeper into the fog at every step. I was, however, close upon my journey's end. The path ended at a turnstile. The turnstile opened upon a steep lane, and at the bottom of the lane, down which I stumbled among stones and ruts, I came in sight of the welcome glare of a blacksmith's forge. Here, then, was Pit End. I found my trap standing at the door of the village inn, the raw-boned grey stabled for the night, the landlord watching for my arrival, and I could only assume, laughing just a little. The Greyhound was a hostelry of modest pretension, and I shared its little parlour with a couple of small farmers and a young man who informed me that he travelled in Thorley's food for cattle. Here I dined, I wrote my letters, and I picked up such scraps of local news as fell my way. There was, it seemed, no resident parson at Pit End, the incumbent being a pluralist with 3 small livings, the duty of which, by the help of a rotatory curate. What a beautiful phrase!
What does that mean? The fact that he has 3 part-time jobs, basically?
Yeah, the 3 livings, the duty of which, by the help of a rotatory curate, he discharged in a somewhat easy fashion. He's working 3 parishes, and the curate just rotates through around him. That's gorgeous language. Pit End, as the smallest and furthest off, came in for but 1 service each Sunday, and was almost wholly relegated to the curate. The squire was a more confirmed absentee than even the vicar. He lived chiefly in Paris, spending abroad the wealth of his Pit End coalfields. He did happen to be at home just now, the landlord said, after 5 years' absence, but he would be off again next week, and another 5 years would probably elapse before they should see him again at Blackwater Chase. Blackwater Chase. That name was not new to me, yet I could not remember where I had heard it. When, however, mine host went on to say that despite his absenteeism, Mr. Wolstenholme was a pleasant gentleman and a good landlord, and that after all Blackwater Chase was a lonesome sort of world-end place for a young man to bury himself in, then I at once remembered Phil Wolstenholme of Balliol, who in his grand way had once upon a time given me a general invitation to the shooting of Blackwater Chase. That was 12 years ago, when I was reading hard at Wadham, and Wolstenholme, the idol of a clique to which I did not belong, was boating, betting, writing poetry, and giving wine parties at Balliol. Just as a quick aside, this hits very different than it would at any other time in history here on Big at Clowncar Inferno Island.
Well, we all imagine he has long, floppy blonde hair.
Gosh, really? Oh, never mind. Gonna need cocaine. I don't want it. Give it me. This whole thing of the local son goes off to Oxford and becomes very important, and then just spends the local wages for forever. Yeah.
They weren't parties. They were work meetings.
In the immortal words of Professor Green, it's not a party. It's a work event. It's not a party. It's a work event.
They've made a disco remix of that now. You know that.
I know.
That should be the closeout for Full Ed this week.
I might do that.
All right.
Yes, I remembered all about him. His handsome face, his luxurious rooms, his boyish prodigality, his utter indolence, and the blind faith of his worshippers, who believed that he had only to pull himself together in order to carry off every honour which the university had to bestow.
Oh yeah, we know who this is.
On behalf of the entire country, Mood. He did take the Newdigate, but it was his first and last achievement, and he left college with the reputation of having narrowly escaped a plucking. How vividly it all came back upon my memory. The old college life, the college friendships, the pleasant time that can never come again. It was but 12 years ago. It seemed like half a century. And now, after these 12 years, here were Wolstenholme and I as near neighbours as in our Oxford days. I wondered if he was much changed, and whether, if changed, it were for the better or the worse. Had his generous impulses developed into sterling virtues, or had his follies hardened into vices? Should I let him know where I was, and so judge for myself? Nothing would be easier than to pencil a line upon a card tomorrow morning and send it up to the big house. Yet, merely to satisfy a purposeless curiosity, was it worthwhile to reopen the acquaintanceship? Thus musing, I sat late over the fire, and by the time I went to bed, I had well nigh forgotten my adventure with the man who vanished so mysteriously, and the boy who seemed to come from nowhere. Next morning, finding I had abundant time at my disposal, I did pencil that line upon my card. A mere line, saving that I believed we had known each other at Oxford, and that I should be inspecting the national schools from 9 till about 11. And then, having dispatched it by one of my landlord's sons, I went off to work. The day was brilliantly fine. The wind had shifted round to the north, the sun shone clear and cold, and the smoke-grimed hamlet and the gaunt buildings clustered at the mouths of the coal pits round about looked as bright as they could at any time of the year.
Sorry, such a southerner.
The village was built up a long hillside, the church and schools being at the top and the greyhound at the bottom. Looking vainly for the lane by which I had come the night before, I climbed the one rambling street, followed a path that skirted the churchyard, and found myself at the schools. It's not Edwardian grinder. These, with the teachers' dwellings, formed 3 sides of a quadrangle, the 4th side consisting of an iron railing and a gate. An inscribed tablet over the main entrance door recorded how these schoolhouses were rebuilt by Philip Wolstenholme, Esquire, A.D. 18-. Mr. Wolstenholme, sir, is the lord of the manor, said a soft, obsequious voice. I turned and found the speaker at my elbow, a square-built, sallow man, all in black, a bundle of copybooks under his arm. You are the schoolmaster? I said, unable to remember his name, and puzzled by a vague recollection of his face. Just so, sir. I conclude I have the honour of addressing Mr. Fraser. It was a singular face, very pallid, anxious-looking. The eyes, too, had a watchful, almost a startled look in them, which struck me as peculiarly unpleasant. Yes, I replied, still wondering when and where I had seen him. My name is Fraser. Yours, I believe, is, and I put my hand into my pocket for my examination papers. Skelton, sir. Ebenezer Skelton. Will you please to take the boys first, sir? The words were commonplace enough, but the man's manner was studiously disagreeably deferential, his very name being given, as it were, under protest, as if too insignificant to be mentioned. I said I would begin with the boys, and so moved on. Then, for we had stood still till now, I saw that the schoolmaster was lame. And in that moment I remembered him. He was the man I met in the fog. "I met you yesterday afternoon, Mr. Skelton," I said, as we went into the school morn. "Yesterday afternoon, sir?" he repeated. "You did not seem to observe me," I said carelessly. "I spoke to you, in fact, but you did not reply to me." "But indeed, I beg your pardon, sir. It must have been someone else," said the schoolmaster. "I did not go out yesterday afternoon." How could this be anything but a falsehood? I might have been mistaken as to the man's face, that was such a singular face, and I had seen it quite plainly, but how could I be mistaken as to his lameness? Besides, that curious trailing of the right foot as if the ankle was broken was not an ordinary lameness. I suppose I looked incredulous, for he added hastily, "Even if I had not been preparing the boys for inspection, sir, I should not have gone out yesterday afternoon. It was too damp and foggy. I am obliged to be careful. I have a very delicate chest." My dislike for the man increased with every word he uttered. I did not ask myself with what motive he went on heaping lie upon lie. It was enough that to serve his own ends, whatever those ends might be, he did lie, and do so with unparalleled audacity. "We will proceed to the examination, Mr. Skelton," I said contemptuously. He turned, if possible, a shade paler than before, bent his head silently, and called up the scholars in their order. I soon found that, whatever his shortcomings as to veracity, Mr. Ebenezer Skelton was a capital schoolmaster. His boys were uncommonly well taught, and as regarded attendance, good conduct, and the like, left nothing to be desired. When, therefore, at the end of the examination, he said he hoped I would recommend the Pit End Boys' School for the government grant, I at once assented. And now I thought I had done with Mr. Skelton for, at all events, the space of 1 year. Not so, however. When I came out from the girls' school, I found him waiting at the door. Profusely apologizing, he begged leave to occupy 5 minutes of my valuable time. He wished, under correction, to suggest a little improvement. The boys, he said, were allowed to play in the quadrangle, which was too small and in various ways inconvenient, but round at the back there was a piece of waste land, half an acre of which, if enclosed, would admirably answer the purpose. So saying, he led the way to the back of the building, and I followed him. "To whom does this ground belong?" "To Mr. Wolstenholme, sir." "Then why not apply to Mr. Wolstenholme? He gave the schools, and I dare say he would be equally willing to give the ground." "I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. Wolstenholme has not been over here since his return, and it is quite possible he may leave Pit End without honouring us with a visit. I could not take the liberty of writing to him, sir." "Neither could I, in my report, suggest that the government should offer to purchase a portion of Mr. Wolstenholme's land for a playground to schools of Mr. Wolstenholme's own building," I replied, "under other circumstances." I stopped and looked round. The schoolmaster repeated my last words. "You were saying, sir, under other circumstances?" I looked round again. "There was someone here," I said. "Some third person not a moment ago." "I beg your pardon, sir. A third person? I saw his shadow on the ground, between yours and mine." The schools faced due north, and we were standing immediately behind the buildings with our backs to the sun. The place was bare and open and high, and our shadows, sharply defined, lay stretched before our feet. A shadow, sir?" he faltered. That's impossible." There was not a bush or a tree within half a mile. There was not a cloud in the sky. There was nothing, absolutely nothing, that could have cast a shadow. I admitted that it was impossible, and that I must have fancied it, and so I went back to the matter of the playground. Should you see Mr. Wolstenholme, I said, you are at liberty to say that I thought it a desirable improvement. I am much obliged to you, sir. Thank you very much, he said, cringing at every word. But I had hoped that you might perhaps use your influence. Look there, I interrupted. Look there. Is that fancy? We were now close under the blank wall of the boys' schoolroom. On this wall, lying to the full sunlight, our shadows, mine and the schoolmaster's, were projected, and there, too, no longer between his and mine, but a little way apart, as if the intruder was standing back there, as sharply defined as if cast by limelight on a prepared background, I again distinctly saw, though but for a moment, that third shadow. And as I spoke, as I looked round, it was gone. Did you not see it? I asked. He shook his head. I saw nothing, sir, he said faintly. What was it? His lips were white. He seemed scarcely able to stand. But you must have seen it, I exclaimed. It fell just there where that bit of ivy grows. There must be some boy hiding. It was a boy's shadow, I am confident. A boy's shadow, he echoed, looking round in a wild, frightened way. There is no place for a boy to hide. Place or no place, I said angrily. If I catch him, he shall feel the weight of my cane. I searched backwards and forwards in event direction, in every direction. The schoolmaster with his scared face limping at my heels, but rough and irregular as the ground was, there was not a hole in it big enough to shelter a rabbit. So what was it? I said impatiently. An illusion, sir. Begging your pardon, sir. An illusion. He looked like a beaten hound, so frightened, so fawning, that I felt I could with lively satisfaction have transferred the threatened caning to his own shoulders. But you saw it, I said again. No, sir. Upon my honour, no, sir. I saw nothing whatsoever. His look belied his words. I felt positive that he had not only seen the shadow, but he knew more about it than he chose to tell. I was, by this time, really very angry. To be made the object of a boyish trick, to be hoodwinked by the connivance of the schoolmaster was too much. It was an insult to me, and it was an insult to my office. I scarcely knew what I said, something short and stern at all events. Then, having said it, I turned my back upon Mr. Skelton and the schools, and walked rapidly back to the village. And that's the first part.
What a prick.
Isn't he a tool? How dare you, cobbler?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like 18th century Sterling Archer, the school inspector. Out of my way. Do this.
Exactly. Why don't you let folks know we're going to take a little break?
We're going to take a short break, everybody, and when we come back, we'll do other stuff.
Sounds good. Oh, my butt.
Marguerite's pressing buttons.
They're not going well. I'll come over here and press the buttons.
It's fine.
These are shinier buttons. Okay. We'll be right back.
Cookies. Because you motherfudger.
Yep. Got motherfuckers. Okay.
Hmm.
Superintendent Chalmers is a really good analogy for this guy. He's an absolute jerk. I have to be a little less tall. That's not working well.
You can always get your chair.
Scooch. No, because you're going to do the shenanigans. And I will go back to the other chair. Next, Ebenezer. Eating a plate of steamed hams. Yes, exactly. There we go.
It's the ghost of the North out for his kneecaps. This actually does remind me.
Oh, no. He's such a southerner. He's in loafers. He didn't wear the right shoes. He's just annoyed that he can't be ferried everywhere he wants to go.
It's the moment where he goes, no, there's a shortcut, I'll take that. And then you just can just imagine the guy running the horse and trap, and here he comes. All right, wanker. How'd the shortcut go?
Nope, that's totally a shortcut. Honest, right? Yes, Naomi, all the mouth sounds. Cookie, cookie, cookie.
ASMR, motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. So yes, second half of the story next week. Mm-hmm. The other thing, and we may actually end up doing this on stream now, I can think about it, because it's very public domain and it's kind of in this oeuvre. Mm-hmm. There's a very good M.R. James story called The Mezzotint, which is this kind of guy. In this case, he's an academic who was an art collector who was sent a picture.
Don't spoil it, but.
And I think it's probably the best thing James wrote. James is one of those very well-known male horror authors, but this is an extraordinarily good piece, and the menace in it is just top.
Excellent. Shall we do some shenanigans?
Let's do some shenanigans.
They're all welcome for this, by the way.
Yes, you are welcome. And before we go any further, I'd like to apologise to both Ben and Alan for the terrible impressions of them I'm about to perpetrate.
You're welcome, chat. You're welcome.
The Secret of St. Kilda, Equilibrium, by Zalia Chimera. That should be an emoji. Content warning, impressions.
Oh, yeah. That's another good one that could go on the list.
Summary. Lockie finally drags Matthias out on that fishing boat trip he threatened to try to resolve matters between them. It does not resolve anything. The waters around St. Kilda are on calm, sunny days a near tropical turquoise, and on the days of the worst storms, an angry grey which turns black as the weather degrades. Today it is a deep blue, waves tipped with white foam caps, and the storm is inside the cabin, where Matthias slams the button to shut down the engine and turns to lean against the console. Lockie contemplates asking him if he drives a car that way, but despite evidence to the contrary, such as being on a small boat in the middle of the ocean with Matthias, he doesn't actually want to die here. Just think how much of a pain it would be setting up a second wake for him so soon after the first. Matthias is glaring at him, and the term "if looks could kill" holds a bit more weight when the person doing the glaring serves an elder god. You wanted to talk? So talk, Matthias says, sharp words for a sharp man, and on dry-ish land, because St. Kilda never really dries off. Lockie always sees him as small, a bit weaselly. He gives the impression of someone who'd have worked for the tax office from the age of 21 and who wrote letters to the newspaper about the deplorable state of wheelie bin parking. But he's not. Not out here on the sea. It takes strength to handle a boat out here, especially when the weather gets rough, and it shows in Matthias now, like he's shed a coat. Well, Matthias says, impatience running through him like an electrical current. Thought we'd chat, clear the air, Lockie replies, since I'm not going anywhere. Matthias curls his lip at that, the kind of expression of outright contempt, which he doesn't usually allow to surface on land. The best thing you can do is keep your head down and keep out of things that don't concern you.
I can hear you trying not to be Elias.
Lockie shrugs. It does, though. Concern me. It's a community, as you're so fond of reminding people, and I'm part of that. Considering what happened with Andromeda during your initiation, that remains very much in doubt. She was the one who said all that. I did nothing I hadn't been told to not... Sorry. She was the one who said all that. I did nothing I hadn't been told to do. But you, as I recall, Lockie shoots back. Weeks of being badgered by Matthias about seemingly pointless details, the questions about his life before death. That was before all of this. You showed up, you ignored all of the rules that are there for good reason, I might add, and you've upset the entire equilibrium of the community. Equilibrium. Is that what we're calling it now? What? He takes a step towards Matthias. The cabin of the boat isn't that big, and it brings him nearly into Matthias's space. Equilibrium. Or is it just jealousy? I don't know what you're implying, but it's obvious, isn't it? You're jealous, because you think Andromeda is favouring me, and you can't think of any other reason other than that flinch. The set of Matthias's jaw, but it's not right. It's just a bit of kilter. Oh. He takes another step forward, slower. A bit like approaching a tiger or a squall on the ocean. Or is it the other way? Is that it, Matthias? You're lashing out like a child with a crush. I'm warning you, Matthias snarls, but there is a hollowness to it. Something defeated lurking beneath. Throw me overboard, then, Lockie says, and they are so close now. Just a hair's breadth from touching. If you think I am so out of line, do it. Matthias lunges for him, and for a second, he thinks that's it. He'll be overboard, condemned to the sea, and there's no other boats out this far, nothing but brine and gulls and the endless depths. The fingers tighten on his shoulders, and there's lips against his, bitten rough and hotter against Lockie's skin than he would have thought possible from someone like Matthias. He takes hold of Matthias's hips and gives back as good as he gets, a claiming kiss, hungry to discover and heedless of the petty awkwardness of teeth, and Matthias struggling to figure out where to put his hands. When they part, panting, flushed, desperate, Matthias licks his lips, glances away like he can't bear to see the source of this loss of composure. This doesn't change anything. Aye, of course not, Lockie lies. What belongs to the sea and all? He presses Matthias back against the console and kisses him again. And, of course, it changes everything.
Well done! How dare you, sir!
What did they do?
There was one particular line, I think it's the I'm warning you line, that landed really, really well.
Ben does Panicky Huffy very well as I'm warning you!
Yes, exactly. And Zalia, you're freaking brilliant. First of all, I think you wrote this...
After episode 1.
In, 3 hours after episode 1. It was very, very fast. Secondly, it is the very first St. Kilda fic on AO3,
yep.
So
well
done for that. And third, how dare you? How dare you be so very good? That was excellent. Thank you. Very well done.
Yeah, that's
Naomi says good night. She had to go to bed anyway.
Okay, good. Yeah, I really like that. I mean, Zalia, you are just effortlessly fantastic. And
it's not effortlessly. It takes effort. They're just relentless and good and talented. And
Rebesco, this is for a fantastic show called The Secret of St. Kilda. It's a 10-episode Scottish horror conspiracy show, which is not about a cult. It's
starring your narrator.
It's 6 episodes in. I play the narrator. Ben Meredith from Stella Firma plays Matthias. Alan Bergen from the Amelia Project plays Lockie. Mm-hmm. Erica Sanderson from every podcast plays Wee Mary, who will become your favourite character the second you hear her.
And then you will abandon Wee Mary, and you will fall in love with Toast the second you meet Toast.
Because Toast is the best cat in the world.
And then you will completely abandon Toast, because then you will meet Harry. And you will fall completely in love with Harry.
Yes, of course. Beastry June was a townsperson once, and it was great. Marguerite has been the mother of 2 characters in Flashback. It is a very, very, very good time.
It's a lovely, spooky, not at all haunted cult-like community, honest.
It's also really dark.
You're gonna... Yeah. If Magnus scratches your itch, if Old Gods of Appalachia is your thing, if Silt Versus is your thing, you're in the right wheelhouse. You'll have a great time with it. It's a great show. First 6 episodes of the 10-episode season 1 have now aired. So 4 episodes to go. You have plenty of time to get caught up.
And now is actually a really good time to do it, because those 10 episodes, that'll take you about a week, 10 days maybe. But if you time it right, you'll have new stuff every time you get to the bottom of the glass.
Bless you, Hawkeye. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Which is just really, really nice. It's a great show.
It's a great show. It's not at all about a cult.
We've had a blast doing it.
Just a wholesome little island community in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's nothing bad happens.
No, there are lads. It's a good time.
There are splendid lads, it must be said. Exactly. So that's our show.
Yeah, we did the 3 things.
We did the 3 things. I had much less time than usual.
I know.
Pardon me. So you want to tell these nice people where they can find us this week?
Yeah, so it is currently Wednesday evening where we are here on the rain-soaked Isle. On Friday, I will either have internet fast juice or a roommate, which I'm very much looking forward to. And later that day, our award-nominated
Pop Culture Newsletter.
There you go.
The full lid will go live. This week we have...
This is your part of the pattern. Don't change it up. How dare you?
This week we have a review of a fantastic indie graphic novel called LDN, which is a collection of stories about London, and a look at the Spotify situation and how it unfolds on Earth 2.
Yeah, we got some really good stuff going on.
Also, my favourite interstitial we've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, it beats the roller coasters from last week.
I haven't even looked at them yet. So
it's musical archaeology.
Sus. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. And then on Sunday, we little later in the morning, we're pushing things back to start around 10:30ish as opposed to 10 a.m. because I like a lie-in at least once a week. We are in the process of playing Life is Strange: True Colors. We are in the 5th of 5 chapters. So if you join us this Sunday, it will be difficult and out of context for you. But all the episodes are in VOD. You are free to help yourself.
It's also a spectacularly good game.
Exactly, Pezzy. After you get your Gregs, you can join us. We're going to aim for 10:30 tomorrow. Sunday. Day. Ends in a Y.
Oh, hello, Play. Glad to find this on Twitch. I read a piece for Costa Wonders a few years ago. Still enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for popping by.
We will pass that on to the editors. That will make their day.
Eldritch, you are correct. Life is indeed getting very strange at the moment. But it's been a wonderful game. We've had a great time with it. We've probably got another session, maybe 2 left in it, and then we're gonna have to come up with another game.
We have a couple of ideas on that.
We have some candidates, so yeah, it'll be good. And then we'll be back here next Wednesday night, 10 p.m. UK time to
find out whether or not it was an illusion.
Was it an illusion? A Parson's Tale. I like those hyphenated names. Those can be a lot of fun.
Like woman.
Oh, there's this
Lovecraft Punk.
There's
a woman's story.
Great thread going around right now on Twitter about someone who took over 2,000 convention panel titles and fed them into an AI generator. And one of them was entitled Heinlein. The other one, Robert Silverberg, the diversity panel, made me spit my fucking tea.
Yeah.
Whoo! A lot of them involved cake. I have not been to nearly enough con panels that involved cake. I can only remember one, and I brought the cake myself. So that's not fair.
Yeah, you say that, and I'm reminded of the one press screening I ever attended where the studio was like, Do you want cake? And six northern journalists were like...
Eating it in a corner cake. Oh my gosh, it's so very like that. I like a lion at least once a week. As do your faithful mods. Yes, our adoring moderators also are not Sunday morning people. So let's just... We're going to try 10:30, see how that does. And it may turn into 11.
Right? The croissant window is wider this week.
Yes, exactly. Precisely. So yeah, that's been our show. I've been Marguerite.
I've been Alasdair.
And this has been fun.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Now I have to ruin that perfectly wonderful ending by getting
Just tell
up
me
and
which
pushing
button to
that
push.
button.
No one's going to notice.
You have to push more than one. Don't. You're going to mess it all up.
It's fine. No one can see.
We'll see you later, folks. Good night.